point, it is entirely fair to wonder which of our fears about the Bush administration might not turn out to be absolutely true. Because in our third story in the Countdown tonight, confirmation today that the Justice Department officials under former Attorney General Alberto Gonzales illegally and repeatedly used a political litmus test in hiring prosecutors and judges. One example, a counterterrorism prosecutor was passed over in favor of someone far less experienced because of the man's wife's political affiliation. The 140-page report from the Department of Justice's Inspector General concluding that former Justice Department counselor and White House liaison Monica Goodling violated federal law by, quote, subjecting candidates for certain career positions to the same politically based evaluation she used on candidates for political positions. Ms. Goodling, you may recall, was one of the Gonzales lackeys involved in the firing of the 9 U.S. attorneys. The Inspector General's report on that is still to come. Goodling had graduated from Pat Robertson's Regent University Law School. The Justice Department reports Ms. Goodling may have to turn in her license to practice law. The good news is, though, she will probably get back all those box tops she sent in to get it. Ms. Goodling passed over hundreds of job applicants by asking questions like these. What is it about George W. Bush that makes you want to serve him? Aside from the president, give us an example of someone currently or recently in public service who you admire. Why are you a Republican? She knew such questions of non-political appointees were inappropriate. She also asked applicants' views on abortion and on gay rights. The report also concluded that the former chief of staff to Gonzales, Kyle Sampson, as well as a predecessor to Ms. Goodling, Jan Williams, broke federal law in the hiring of immigration judges, and that slowed the already overloaded immigration courts. Let's turn now to George Washington University law professor and constitutional law expert, Jonathan Turley. John, good evening.
Hi, Keith.
What is it about George W. Bush that makes you want to serve him? I mean, these confirmations about what we're getting, what we're hearing about what happened in justice the last 6 years are beginning to sound like the legal equivalent of Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah, I was thinking more like the Voldemort Department of Human Resources. It's perfectly bizarre. Do you know what's amazing how wrong it is? Because, of course, career attorneys at the Department of Justice do not serve the president. They serve justice, the country, but not the president. Even political appointees in the White House, they serve at the pleasure of the president. But that just means he can fire them. They actually serve the office of the presidency. But you can really get a glimpse at how unhinged the Bush administration Justice Department became. That essentially Alberto Gonzales recreated that institution in the image of himself, a very political and arbitrary institution that had no sense of independence from the president.
Now, the response to this from the Inspector General in the reports, the recommendations as to how to prevent this again, would seem to be really limited. I mean, they're suggesting make the rules clearer. What's not clear in the rules, and what on earth is that going to do if this was achieved as we've seen it achieved?
You know, Keith, you pointed out the most important thing. That is, the problem with this report is it reaches a sort of nonsensical conclusion. There was no ambiguity in the rules. Most people in this town, Republican and Democrat alike, were shocked when the reports about Goodling and others came out. I mean, this is not a town that shocks easily. But the Justice Department's always had a tradition of neutrality in hiring, and many conservatives, many liberals came in administrations that were not followers of their particular political beliefs. And so there was nothing ambiguous here. The question of what happens is you could have a perjury prosecution of Goodling, Gonzales, and some others. Their testimony does not quite jive with what we've seen in this report. You also may see some as you note, some bar efforts to strip them or suspend them of their license.
Is that likely to be it in terms of punitive action against this administration? If we've already seen impeachment go out the window, and we've seen the Obama legal advisors talk about not prosecuting the quote-unquote most egregious crimes, is that most things going to happen here is maybe they put Monica Goodling in jail for 6 weeks for lying?
Well, that would be rather pathetic, wouldn't it, if Monica Goodling is the only one that heads off to Club Fed. But it's not likely. You know, they can bring a perjury prosecution, but remember, they would refer that to the Justice Department. Attorney General Mukasey has refused to even let a grand jury see what is, in my view, a fairly clear and open and shut case of contempt by Bush administration officials. So I doubt he's going to be even more forthcoming here. The most he could say is that he was, quote, disturbed by this report. Many of us wonder what it takes to be outraged. I mean, disturbed is something you hear from Buckingham Palace that didn't like what happened at the polo field.
Well, when the Department of Justice officially declares itself a cult, I think then there might be some better reaction to it, but maybe it already is. Last point, as a predictor, John, the IG's report on the firing of the 9 U.S. attorneys is still to come. Is what we saw today, is it a preview, if not, at least in terms of the gory details?
I think it is a very interesting preview. The most important thing about today's report is that they had some material there that we have not seen before and potentially Congress had not seen before. That's going to be even more the case with the U.S. Attorney's investigation, where the Bush administration has stonewalled a lot of this information. So we may be seeing a great more there. But the question really is, why isn't the president coming forward and saying that there's a shame factor here, that what occurred at the Justice Department? Alberto Gonzales picked this person not because of the merits. She lacked anything on the merits. She was picked because she was an extremist, and this is the result.
No shame, no pain. Jonathan Turley, constitutional law professor at George Washington. As always, sir, many thanks.
Thanks, Keith.